The news came as a rude shock to the world yesterday. The People's Bank of China said there will be no bailout for distressed property developer Evergrande. Evergrande has been in the news for the last few weeks because it is owing over $300 billion to creditors, has defaulted and is at risk of going under. Evergrande, one of the largest property developers in China, was seen as too big to fail. But it has not only run out of cash, it threatens to take down the Chinese economy with it. Evergrande is not alone in this situation, as most of the largest Chinese real estate developers are holding a portfolio of over 50 million unsold and empty houses, and they have no cash to service their loans. Beyond the real estate crisis, China is also grappling with an energy crisis and now rations power, leaving millions without power at different times. One will have been forgiven for thinking the chaotic scenes of motorists queuing for fuel was of a Nigerian city, but surprisingly, it was Britain. Great Britain appears not so great as it grapples with an unprecedented supply chain crisis affecting everything from fuel, food, and labor. American President Joe Biden faces the greatest test of his presidency as he deals with supply chain issues, escalating prices of goods and services, and a backlog of ships at the ports waiting to be discharged. Many believe that Americans face a bleak Christmas and expect that this crisis will extend to Q4 2022. And there was a famine in the land beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oaths which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. As you can see, there was famine in the land in the time of Isaac, and the Bible also now reminds us that this was a different famine from the one that occurred during the time of Abraham. So Abraham experienced famine in his lifetime, and his son Isaac also experienced famine in his own lifetime. Famines of those days are like the pandemics we face today. What is interesting is that every time there was famine, God was speaking to his own and telling them what to do. As God was taking Abraham to show him the land of promise, a famine arose, and Abraham had to make a detour to Egypt. You can imagine that in his mind he would have been doubting the God that had promised him so much, only for him to experience famine. Where was the land? What of the blessings, he asked himself. God's plans are not man's plans, neither his ways are our ways. In Egypt, God caused Pharaoh to bless Abraham, and Abraham left Egypt a very rich man. Fast forward to Isaac. God told him, don't go to Egypt, stay in Gerar, and I will bless you here. Isaac obeyed God, and as he sowed in that land, he received 100-fold. What of Jacob and Joseph? The same Egypt that Abraham was blessed in, the same Egypt that God told Isaac not to venture into, is the same Egypt that they were also blessed. God blessed Isaac in the midst of a famine because of Abraham's obedience and his covenant thereof. God blessed Jacob and Joseph for that very same reason. They all waxed great and flourished when others had tales of woe. The current pandemic is decimating world economies, plunging nations and people into all sorts of crises. Those who we looked up to as the best and biggest are in crisis. Britain, America, and China are the Egypt and Gerar of today, but they are all facing one crisis or the other. Those we thought were too big to fail have now failed. Where is our Egypt? Where is our Gerar? Child of God, despair not. Christ is in the crisis. The obedience of Christ is greater than the obedience of Abraham. The sacrifice of Christ is greater than the sacrifice of Abraham. The covenant of Christ is greater than that of Abraham. Have you ever wondered why God chose to bless Abraham in Egypt and told Isaac not to go into Egypt? Why did he then bless Joseph in Egypt? What changed? God wants you to know that the blessing is not in the location, but in the promise you carry in you. Wherever he situates you, he will bless you. The blessing is tied to the sacrifice of his son Yehoshua, and you benefit from your obedience and allegiance to the covenant of Yehoshua. Once you are tied to that covenant, you also can hear from him directly on your course of action. Is it to reap from the sweat of others like Abraham, sow like Isaac, or save and profit like Joseph? Any which way, he will bless you. So ask God for his plan for you in this pandemic. Evergrande may fail, Britain may fail, America may fail, but God is the only one too big to fail. You too can never fail because you carry the promise. You are the blessing. At a time of crisis like this, men will run to you as their Egypt, as their Gerar, because you carry the Godhead on your inside. Hold on to God. Abide in him. In this pandemic, you will be blessed. You'll emerge stronger, better, and more prosperous from this, so that people may say of a truth, you are a child of the God who is too big to fail. God bless you all.